Good afternoon. Welcome to the fourth quarter and annual award ceremony. Let's get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get started, I want to acknowledge that all three assistant city managers are here. David Graham, thank you for coming. Patricia Roebling. And Jesus Morejo, thank you. Your constant support of the police department is greatly, greatly appreciated, and we love having you at this ceremony, so we get to show off what we're doing. Don't feel like this is working. All right, let's get started with the service citations. Lieutenant Scott?
I'm ready when you are. For 5 years, we have Detective Joe Alves, Detective Tricia Gittins-Ward, Officer Clifford Dean, Officer Robert Mayer, and Rob Mann, Fleet Coordinator. Congratulations. For 10 years, we have Officer Rob Penny. 15 years, Lieutenant Leo Nemzik and Officer Terry Russell. For 20 years, Officer John Golson and Officer Jimmy McMillan, the guardian of City Hall. What do you guys got him on a utility run or something? He should be here. 30 years, Sergeant James Darren Howie. Doogie.
Bobby won't be 31.
Oh. And believe it or not, for 35 years, Sergeant Robert McGee. Somebody get the walker out, help him up.
So we don't even have a 35-year pin, so we're going to have to get one made. Says I owe you one. Linda, when you order the 35, get a 42. He's not going anywhere.
Next, we have a serious thing. Next is something serious, the educational achievement. We have Officer Mike Connor for an Associate in Arts degree and Sergeant Brian Kenny for a Bachelor's in Public Administration. Next up is a Citizens Award, a letter of appreciation for Joe Presendo. Joe, are you here? All right. Joe, the Port St. Lucie Police Department would love to recognize you for your assistance in solving multiple cases that occurred near Oakhammock Park. You reside next to the park and have spent your own funds on advanced surveillance camera systems. Some of your cameras have a view of the park and roadway in front of the park. Your cameras also have the capability to view license plates of vehicles that drive by. You're always eager to support law enforcement with cases that arise in your area. Due to your willingness to assist, on numerous occasions for many years, we have solved countless cases because of your sophisticated surveillance system, along with your assistance. Without your help and personal surveillance system, many of these cases would go unsolved. Again, we appreciate your continued support of the Port St. Lucie Police Department. Thank you. We also had a letter for Mr. Robert Golden, who couldn't make it. He helped out on a traffic crash, applying a tourniquet to the severely injured dad of one of our officers. So Mr. Golden couldn't make it, but the agency thanks him for his work. Chief?
Canine Oliver? No. Please, Will, you can come too. So, many of you know the history of myself, awards ceremonies, and dogs, so this proves I'm not the coward that, you know. Canine Oliver began his service with the city of Port St. Lucie in 2009. He served the city of PSL as a patrol dog as well as an explosives detection dog. Canine Officer Will Harris and Canine Oliver have been an incredible asset to the community and to Port St. Lucie, and also the entire state of Florida. Will and Oliver have been to almost every major function in the state. During his tenure, he achieved and maintained certifications in patrol and explosive detection through the National Police Canine Association, the North American Police Work Dog Association, the Florida Law Enforcement Canine Association, and the National Odor Recognition Test. Due to his high level of competency, he has been utilized at events such as the New York Mets Spring Training, the Daytona 500, several presidential details in the state of Florida. Canine Oliver has over 100 criminal apprehensions to his credit and has deployed in countless high-risk situations while working in a patrol capacity. He has received countless awards and accolades, and in 2016, he and Officer Harris were awarded the North American Police Work Dog Association Tactical Team of the Year. Canine Oliver will be missed by all the citizens who came to love him from public demonstrations. His paw prints will be tough to fill. Oliver has been there so many times protecting people from potential harm at local baseball games and large events throughout the city and state. Oliver is retiring to Canine Officer Will Harris's home, where he will live out his life as a loving pet to the Harris family. Oliver's service to the city of Port St. Lucie will never be forgotten. Thank you, Canine Oliver.
Next up, we have a unit citation for Detective Paul Griffith, Detective Wade Wilnow, and Officer Chris Neidl. While temporarily assigned to CID, Officer Neidl assisted the Economic Crime Unit with a backlog of cases. Back in August, he investigated a case regarding a scheme to defraud a financial institution that was turned over to us from another agency. The complainant reported that a female that she does not know deposited a fraudulent check into her checking account at a bank ATM here in Port St. Lucie, and then attempted to withdraw the funds, but was declined. Officer Neidl conducted the investigation and obtained video surveillance and positively identified the suspect who made the fraudulent deposit into the victim's account. He also identified a second suspect in this case. This second suspect also deposited a fraudulent check into the victim's checking account and was able to withdraw the funds prior to the bank determining the checks were fraudulent. Based on Officer Neidl's investigation, along with the investigative techniques and guidance by Detectives Wilnow and Griffith, warrants were obtained for the arrest of the two suspects who were working in concert to defraud a financial institution, committed criminal use of personal identification on multiple victims throughout the state of Florida, and uttered forged checks to the tune of thousands of dollars. These types of cases are extremely complex and more often go unreported, allowing the suspects to continue their victimization on banking institutions and customers without any ramifications. This is just one example of the investigative work put in by Officer Neidl and Detectives Wilnow and Griffith in shutting down a small, organized ring of fraud suspects operating along the Treasure Coast. These suspects have also been linked to another group who are cloning victims' credit cards throughout the United States. Detective Griffith, Detective Wilnow, and Officer Neidl demonstrated one of the Port St. Lucie Police Department's core values, which is do your job. Without their attention to detail and relentless commitment to these investigations, the cases may have gone unsolved. Great job, guys. We have another unit citation. This is for a Southeast Carnival spree with arrests made. We need Sergeant Jesse Anigo, Detective Wade Wilnow, back up here, Officer Abe Alves, Officer Mike Connor, Officer Eugene Gibbons, Officer Tim Herring, Officer Jeremy Lewis, Officer Kaylee Reedy, Officer John Seeley, and Officer Ricky Yeba. In the early morning hours of December 23rd, officers were dispatched to a home on Southeast Cross Point Drive in reference to a report of a stolen vehicle that was in progress. Several unknown suspects were observed running away from the stolen vehicle just prior to the officers' arrival. This incident occurred within an active crime spree in which a firearm had recently been stolen. A perimeter was established and a canine unit began to track the suspects. As a result of their efforts, officers arrested 2 juveniles within the perimeter and another 2 at the house. Based on the information provided by the suspects, they had been burglarizing vehicles and houses for several hours before being apprehended. It meant there would be several more victims who were yet to be identified. Officers on scene had the suspects show them which vehicles and houses were burglarized by driving them around the neighborhood. As a result, 11 other potential victims were identified. Interviewing victims, processing vehicles for evidence, locating stolen property, sharing information, and documenting these crimes are a daunting task. Collectively, they are crucial to the line of questioning detectives would need in order to ask and establish probable cause. However daunting a task that this was, the officers banded together and distributed the workload, ensuring a detailed, accurate account was documented and the stolen property was returned to the rightful owners. Among those items recovered was the aforementioned stolen gun. So congratulations to you guys on a job well done. We have another unit citation for Officer Supreet Fraga, Officer Stu Clearman, Officer Ryan Lodwick, Officer Rob Penny, and Officer Brian Thompson. Back in November, officers were dispatched to a bank on Southeast Port St. Lucie Boulevard in reference to a fraud, which had just occurred. Officers learned that a male suspect was fraudulently using his father's checking account to withdraw over $2,000 in the past few weeks. As officers investigated this allegation, it was learned that the suspect was currently at another bank on South U.S. Highway 1 attempting to do the same thing. With this information, additional units responded and apprehended the suspect before any more money was stolen. In speaking with the suspect, it learned he was stealing from his dad to support his drug habit. If not for everyone's attention to detail, communication, and swift response, the suspect most likely would have reoffended several times before he was finally caught. Their actions are a testament to the cohesion and teamwork displayed by our patrol officers. Congratulations on a job well done. And one more unit citation. Officer Dan Papaleo, Officer Alan Ludmerer, Officer John Bello, Detective Josh Saframiller, Officer Tim Herring, Detective Mike Semino, Detective Jerry Harrington, and CSI Joel Smith. Back in December, Officer Papaleo responded to Southwest Barthel Street to investigate a burglary. The victim believed the burglary occurred to his vehicle the day before in the early morning hours. An iPad and other miscellaneous items were reported stolen. Officer Papaleo, being a millennial, used the iPhone application, Find My iPhone, to try and recover the iPad. He observed a possible location for the iPad in the vicinity of Gatlin Boulevard and Rosser Boulevard. He continued to monitor the application and saw that the iPad remained at that location on Southwest Pitts Ave for about 15 minutes. Then he called in the troops. He, along with the other officers, responded to Southwest Pitts Ave and made contact with a male who was inside of a vehicle that was parked in the driveway. They also made contact with another male who was inside the house. Both men admitted to officers, yep, they were at this location during the time Find My iPhone was reviewed. The driver consented to a search of the vehicle, and believe it or not, the stolen iPad was found under the passenger seat. Officers observed multiple cell phones and a large number of other personal belongings within the vehicle that could potentially be items stolen from other burglaries. They also located a spring-loaded center punch that was inside of the men's pocket. We call them clues, right, Kevin? Both men were detained, interviewed, and confessions were obtained, and the driver of the vehicle was charged with burglary to an unoccupied conveyance and grand theft. The passenger was charged with possession of burglar's tools. CID continued the investigation, and it revealed that one of the men committed criminal mischief back in December on a place in District 2, Northwest Marion Avenue. It was also learned that he committed an occupied burglary to a residence and a burglary to an unoccupied vehicle back in December at a home on Byron Street. The man was captured on video committing these burglaries. He was also charged with both those incidents. Due to the hard work and coordinated efforts of Road Patrol, CID, and the crime scene techs, numerous cases were cleared by arrest, and the two persons responsible were taken off our streets. Great job, everybody.
Each and every one of those unit citations is a great example of teamwork. The last one really catches me is, because maybe it's changed, but when I went through the academy, there was no investigation class on using Find My iPhone. But that's a perfect example, though, of what makes this organization so good at what it does, is they kept going with a simple little thing like Find My iPhone. They kept going, and they kept picking up those rocks and looking under them, and they kept investigating, and we talk about it all the time, relentless, but it was relentless, and then it ended up solving how many crimes and preventing, we have no idea how many more. And when you look at our crime stats, people say, I don't know, it's luck. It's not luck. It's going that extra step. They could have very easily have not pursued this call this vigorously, and we wouldn't have had these results, and there's no telling how many more burglaries we would have had before these guys did get caught. So great job, everybody, on the teamwork, and that particular one, just great police work, outside the box.
All right, next we have a commendation citation for Detective Paul Knowles and Detective Erica Venazio. During the week of November 13th, the Special Investigations Division received information from the Office of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, ATF, regarding a convicted felon possessing and displaying a firearm in a grocery store here in Port St. Lucie. Further investigation was conducted, and the subject was positively identified and confirmed that not only was he a convicted felon restricted from possessing a firearm, but also on felony probation for weapons charges. Detectives Erica Venazio and Paul Knowles were assigned to assist ATF. These detectives collaborated with the Florida Department of Corrections probation officers and coordinated a probation check at his residence. Detectives Venazio and Knowles accompanied ATF from probation to provide security as they initiated a search at the suspect's home. Probation officers discovered a loaded handgun under the suspect's pillow. Detectives Venazio and Knowles immediately secured the subject in the house and prepared a search warrant application to search the home. Detectives Venazio and Knowles worked tirelessly throughout the night to author and secure a search warrant for the residence. Once the warrant was secured, the home was searched, and the detectives, along with assistance of ATF, recovered and logged nearly 2,000 live rounds of ammunition, 1 stolen handgun, 2 additional handguns, and 3 loaded semi-automatic assault rifles, one of which was illegally modified. In addition to the 6 weapons, felony narcotics were recovered and secured from within the home. Because of their tenacious work ethic, combined with the severity of the charges facing the suspect, the federal prosecutor's office has adopted this case and is moving forward to prosecute this repeat offender on federal weapons charges, which will help ensure the safety of the residents of our city for years to come. The teamwork, dedication, and seamless coordination with outside agencies shined as Detectives Venazio and Knowles showcased their professionalism to bring this case to conclusion. Their exceptional efforts went well above and beyond expectations of their normal duty and demonstrated true pride in their work, bringing extensive praise and admiration from those outside agencies which we worked in concert with on this case. Great job, everybody.
Big words, huh?
Yeah, that was a long one. Didn't have Quagmire, but it was close. Life-Saving Award for Officer Joe Chamberlain. No? Well, Joe provided CPR to a gentleman, and due to his quick actions and determinations, he saved his life. So good job, Joe. Another Life-Saving Award, we have a lot of them this time, for Officer Jean Bello and Assistant Store Manager Charles Gates. Yeah. On the evening of November 16th, John, you were dispatched to the St. James Public Supermarket in reference to an unconscious male in the restroom. Upon arrival, you made contact with store manager Gates, who was performing CPR on the victim. It was determined that the victim was not breathing, nor did he have a pulse. You immediately relieved the store manager and continued CPR until you regained the victim's pulse and breathing. The victim was turned over to fire rescue and transported to the hospital in critical condition. The following week, you contacted the hospital to check on the victim and were informed he would soon be discharged. If not for your immediate actions, the outcome would not have been resolved in a positive manner. Congratulations, officer, on a job well done. Another life-saving award to Officer Joe Byrne. On October 22nd, Officer Byrne responded to a medical emergency to a home on Southeast Thornhill Drive. Upon arriving, he found a 59-year-old man pinned beneath a vehicle that he had been working on in the driveway of his home. The front brake rotor had come down on the victim's upper chest and throat area after a jack that was holding up the car collapsed. Joe, you, along with fire rescue paramedics, lifted the vehicle off the victim, pulled the vehicle out from under the vehicle, and began advanced life-saving efforts. The victim was then flown to the hospital and ultimately survived his very serious injuries, in part because of your swift actions and efforts. Congratulations, Joe, on a job well done. I want to see you go out there and lift the car, though. That's what I want to see. Got another life-saving award, Officer Alan Ludmerer. On October 26th, you responded to Southwest Hill Court regarding a rescue run. Information was received via 911 that a 4-month-old infant was found by a home daycare provider choking and blue in color. When you arrived, you found the child without a pulse and not breathing. You immediately grabbed the infant and started CPR. The residence was a home daycare, and there were several other children in the home. The layout of the home was a bit confusing with all the construction of the daycare in the garage, and you didn't want to delay arriving rescue units searching for the entrance. You took quick action by running out the side door with the infant cradled in your arms while still performing CPR. You ran down the driveway and into the street where you saw the rescue unit approaching. You ran towards the rescue unit, still performing CPR, and handed the infant off to fire rescue where they took over CPR. The child was transported to the hospital for further treatment and ultimately airlifted to another hospital. The infant initially displayed signs of recovery, and there was hope that the victim may recover. The following day, an incident debrief was conducted and information from medical personnel was passed on, indicating that the infant was still fighting and had a chance but was not in the clear yet. The rescue personnel applauded your actions and efforts. Without your actions, the infant most likely would not even have had a chance. Great job. And another life-saving award, Officer James Luongo. James, on Wednesday, November 29th, you responded to a rollover crash on US 1. You observed a white sedan lying upside down in the southbound lane. The damage to the vehicle was extensive, with all of its windows shattered and the airbags deployed. The driver of the vehicle was found upside down, still seatbelted into the driver's seat. She sustained a serious, life-threatening injury to her left arm, which unfortunately resulted in her hand and forearm being severed from the arm at the elbow. As Good Samaritans were attempting to render first aid to the victim, you were able to immediately assess the tremendous amount of blood loss and took over first aid efforts. You applied a tourniquet to the victim's injured arm in an effort to stem the blood loss until fire rescue arrived and then took over the life-saving efforts. The victim was ultimately removed from the vehicle and transported to an area hospital where she remained in critical but stable condition. Fire rescue paramedics who were on scene all stated that if not for your immediate life-saving efforts and the application of the tourniquet, the victim would not have survived. Congratulations, Officer Luongo, on a job well done. And another life-saving award. Man, we saved a lot of lives this time. You guys are doing great. I know who to call if I'm ever in trouble. Officer Steve Camara, Officer Will Harris, and Officer Joe Trevisol. On November 15th, Officers Camara, Harris, and Trevisol responded to a home on Northwest Scepter Drive in reference to a domestic disturbance. The caller stated that her husband was severely depressed and had mental health issues. She stated her husband grabbed a bat and was beating himself in the head, which caused her to run out of the house. When the officers arrived, they approached the front door of the home and could hear an individual in distress in the house. Officers made entry into the home and located the husband in the bathtub with 2 severe lacerations to his upper arms and bleeding profusely in his attempt to commit suicide. The officers quickly took action and used a belt from a bathrobe and shoelaces to apply tourniquets to both arms to slow the bleeding. Officers then disassembled the shower doors and removed the husband from the bathtub so that rescue was able to transport. Rescue arrived and transported him to the hospital, where he later recovered from his injuries. Due to your life-saving actions, you saved this gentleman's life, and he received the help he needed. Great job. And last but not least, life-saving award. Sergeant Tim Petronico, Detective Josh Safamilla, Officer Tim Herring, and Officer Matt Reynolds. On November 11th, officers were dispatched to the Twin Bridges in reference to a female who was attempting to commit suicide by jumping off the bridge. Upon arrival, they observed a female standing on the north side of the bridge. The female was on the opposite side of the pedestrian barrier and standing on a light pole ledge on the water side of the pole. Officers quickly identified she had been drinking and wanted to kill herself. The female said she wanted to jump off the bridge and into the water. The female also admitted to self-harm by cutting both arm and shoulder areas and her upper thighs. While talking to her, she would pull away from the light pole several times and look down into the water. At this time, Officer Herring took a position of advantage near the botanical gardens. Just in case she did jump into the water, he'd be able to leap in and save her. The rapport building and conversations with the female continued between Sergeant Petronico and Officer Reynolds for about 40 minutes. After successfully building a rapport with the female, she complied, crossed back over the bridge barrier and onto the pedestrian sidewalk. However, as Officer Reynolds and Detective Safamilla moved to place her into custody, she tried to cross back over the barrier. Detective Safamilla and Officer Reynolds prevented her attempt and secured the female and offered to prevent her from harming herself. Based on her statements and actions, she was taken into custody and transported to the hospital for treatment. All individuals on scene removed the female from immediate danger and placed her into the custody of medical care. Congratulations, you guys.
Many people say there's nothing more rewarding than saving another human life, and this was an exceptional month for this or exceptional quarter for this organization, and it just goes to show that the proper equipment and the proper training and the proper people on the job can make a difference. And already in this quarter, we've had some saves too. So keep doing the great work you're doing out there.
Next is a volunteer of the fourth quarter, volunteer Jackie Malhoit. Jackie, congratulations. Based upon a nomination submitted by Tom Andrew, you've been selected as volunteer of the fourth quarter for 2017. You've been a volunteer with the Port St. Lucie Police Department since January of 2013, currently working the reception desk in the police department's front lobby. You also participated as a volunteer with the Volunteer Crime Watch Patrol. You patrol and check homes that have been registered with the department as being closed. You're a conscientious and dedicated volunteer who gives courteous service in whatever area you work. With all you do for our department, you still find time to mentor a young girl with the Big Brothers, Big Sisters program. You're a valuable asset to the Port St. Lucie Police Volunteer Program. It's for these reasons and more you're being awarded Volunteer of the Fourth Quarter for 2017. Next, we have the Brian E. Ruther Manager Award to Sergeant Rick Schichtel. Rick, based on a nomination submitted by yours truly, you've been awarded, no, there's no hook there. He doesn't automatically get it just because I put him in. You've been awarded the Brian E. All right. You've been the Brian E. Ruther Manager Award for the fourth quarter of 2017. Rick does a lot. He has coordinated the annual Shop with a Cop event at Walmart, where over $7,500 was raised, and more than 50 children went shopping with Port St. Lucie police officers. He also worked on the Heroes and Helpers event at Target, where $4,000 was donated by Target. This allowed approximately another 35 families to have a Christmas holiday. The police department was fortunate enough to have presents dropped off at the station, and you filled your truck with these presents and brought them to Patches in Fort Pierce. For those of you who don't know what Patches is, it's a medical daycare facility that makes a difference in the lives of medically complex children and their families. These presents brought joyfulness to the children who may not have been able to experience a Merry Christmas. You organized the Special Olympics Torch Run, and are doing that now again, several Tip-A-Cop events at area restaurants, and sold and are currently selling T-shirts for the Special Olympics. So if you didn't buy one yet, go see them. You have the ancillary duty of Marine Patrol Sergeant. You prepare the schedules for the officers designated as Marine Patrol and train new officers for the position. You have worked with numerous agencies and city departments to obtain grant funding, permits, etc. Along with your assignments, you also act as the agency's U.S. Customs and Immigration Enforcement, ICE, Blue Lightning Liaison. You complete all these tasks, and you're still able to perform your primary assignment in district support, supervising the school resource officers, crossing guards, crime prevention, Police Athletic League, Explorer Program, and the Juvenile Justice Restorative Program. Makes it sound like I don't do nothing. It was for all, Don't say it. It was for all the above-mentioned factors, plus many more, you being presented with the Brian E. Ruther Manager Award for the fourth quarter of 2017. It's my pleasure to give you Rick checkbook.
Come out and help Rick Friday night, Outback, tip a cop for the Special Olympics.
That's right.
Yeah, I got the commercial in, Rick.
We have another Brian E. Ruther Manager Award to Linda Cole, Records Division Supervisor. Linda, congratulations. Based upon a nomination submitted by record specialist Karen Baggett and Elaine Cook, you've been awarded a Brian E. Ruther Manager Award also for the fourth quarter of 2017. Since you have taken the position as record supervisor, you have done an outstanding job, and you always set a good example for your records team. You have cross-trained every team member in the division to ensure different members have a chance to learn all the new responsibilities. You have a great ability to teach your staff members on various tasks and explain in great detail how all these processes need to be completed. You're a fair supervisor and always go the extra mile to make sure your division works as a team. You have an open door policy and will take time out of your busy schedule to listen to employees' new ideas or when they need assistance. You have the uncanny ability to be discreet on handling staff concerns, and you're a trusted member of the team. You have become the primary contact for the city's new alarm reduction program, working closely with the third-party administrator. You have successfully handled approximately 100 alarm appeals. In the past quarter, you have also effectively set up the process to transfer all traffic accidents from records to our new Carfax for Police program. You're the first point of contact and coordinator for all police department public records requests, and during this quarter, you oversaw 2,700 public records requests. Wow. In addition to the above accomplishments, you continue to set an example for excellence with your sharing of knowledge in all expert aspects of records management and continue to provide incredible mentorship to your records team while keeping the morale extremely high. You have made positive changes in the records division and have motivated your staff to do their best. You are a true asset to the police department, and for these reasons, you've been chosen to receive the Brian E. Ruther Manager Award. Thank you. Civilian of the Quarter, Jamie Sparks, Administrative Assistant, Professional Standards, Staff Services. Based upon a nomination submitted by Lieutenant Mark DeMeo, you've been awarded Civilian of the Fourth Quarter for 2017. You've made a huge impact in the department since you started in staff services. You assisted and created a more efficient way to hire seasonal school crossing guards. School crossing guards are now classified as contractual, and by doing this, you had cut out the time once required to basically rehire them every year. You were also instrumental in organization and implementation of the promotional exams by working with human resources. You aided in preparing the exams, securing the off-site written exam location, as well as the off-site assessment center. With the refit of the training room, the department began hosting outside training during the past year. You organized each class roster and ensured easy access into the training room for both instructors and students alike. Each training session was very successful, mainly due to your commitment and constant observation of the daily activities related to the courses. You would arrive earlier than scheduled and stay until the completion of each class to prepare for the next day. You took on a role as ambassador to the training and recruiting section during National Night Out and the City University. You greeted everyone and escorted them to the second floor where citizens were able to use and observe the Milo system, which gives them an inside look at the training required for each officer and the various scenarios they face every day. You have worked on several charity events outside of your normal duties that brought a positive light to the agency. For example, a child who was bullied in his school has always wanted to be a police officer. You coordinated for him to meet with several officers, including the chief and SWAT. You made a lasting impression on the child and the officers involved. This is merely a snapshot of the work you complete on a daily basis. Your commitment to the agency and the people we serve is a true testament to this term, service over self. Jamie, congratulations on being awarded the Civilian of the Fourth Quarter for 2017. Detective Dave Butterworth, the detective of the fourth quarter, 2017. No? Well, I'll read it anyway. All right, everybody. Based on the nomination submitted by Joe Norcus, Dave Butterworth, or Butters as he's called, has been selected as detective of the fourth quarter. During 2017, he was assigned 64 investigations. He recovered 10 missing persons, investigated 11 unnatural deaths, and 7 violent crimes, including robberies and aggravated batteries. He works well with his peers and are regularly sought out for investigative guidance, and he makes the right decision based on strong professional ethics. Not the easy decision, the right decision. Through his tenure, he established and maintained relationships with other law enforcement agencies and the state attorney's office. Back in April, he was the lead investigator in the kidnapping and carjacking of 4 persons. This incident resulted in an agency-wide response. It took place after an armed robbery at the jewelry store. As the investigation widened, the victims returned home. He coordinated the local investigation while working with federal law enforcement agencies. The suspect was identified through fingerprints recovered both here and in Palm Beach County. The suspect was arrested and is awaiting trial in federal court. In addition to his assigned cases, he actively investigated an unsolved murder from 2016. During the early morning hours in February, masked suspects went to a single-family home and murdered one of the occupants. He conducted interviews, completed 21 search warrants and subpoenas for electronic records, and facilitated a cell phone tower engineer to test tower signal strength. This had never been done before by our agency. For 14 months, as witnesses refused to cooperate and the initial investigative resources were rolled back, he endured both organizational and the victim's familial pressure to solve the murder. This was a long, daunting task that would push any investigator to their limits. He endured this with professionalism and maintained an exhausting operational tempo. Ultimately, 3 persons were arrested, successfully closing this investigation. During this period, he also helped train 2 new detectives assigned to the persons section. In October, he volunteered for the new position within our economic crimes unit. Congratulations on detective of the fourth quarter. Well, I know he's here. Joe Byrne, come on up, officer of the fourth quarter. Joe, based upon a nomination submitted by Sergeant Mark Bowles, you've been selected as the officer of the fourth quarter for 2017. During the fourth quarter, you have proven yourself to be a valuable asset to the agency. You've been instrumental in bringing several cases to successful conclusion, including an arrest for 10 felony charges on a check fraud case and assisting with the apprehension of the St. Lucie West murder suspect. During this quarter, you were responsible for saving the victim's life in an attempted suicide attempt, and the mentally disturbed subject received the much-needed mental health care. You also received a letter of praise from a citizen this quarter thanking you for taking the time to assist them with a credit card identity theft issue. You consistently exhibit an outstanding personal effort along with displaying a positive attitude toward the public. You set a good example for newer officers, and you're very knowledgeable on Florida state statutes and case law. Along with your normal duties, you're also a uniformed crime scene investigator and a traffic homicide investigator. You're constantly willing to assist your fellow officers with any issues or questions they may have. It's for these reasons you're being awarded the Officer of the Fourth Quarter of 2017. Congratulations on a job well done. Volunteer of the Year, Volunteer Lois Rosen. Lois, based upon a nomination submitted by Tom Andrew, you've been selected as Volunteer of the Year for 2017. You've been a volunteer with the Port St. Lucie Police Department since April of 2008, currently patrolling in the Tradition community. You observe and report any suspicious activity during your patrol hours. In addition, you volunteer in the Records Division here at the station. You scan and verify record files, providing valuable assistance to the Record Division staff. You always have a smile on your face. Let me see. Give us a smile. Yep, there we go. You always have a smile on your face, and you're a pleasure to work with. It's for these reasons and more you're being awarded Volunteer of the Year 2017. Great job. You had her all serious. Civilian of the Year, Lisa Smith, Purchasing Supervisor. Lisa, based upon a nomination submitted by Bill May, you have been selected as Civilian of the Year. Recently, you were promoted to the position of Purchasing Supervisor. As you continue to learn your new duties, Hurricane Irma hit. You then had to switch gears and coordinate all the supplies needed, helping and ensuring the facilities were properly stocked, arranging the meals for employees, and you worked all throughout the event. You did all this with an upbeat and pleasant demeanor. In addition, you trained Colleen Bakels in her duty as a police department buyer. It's for these reasons and many, many more that you're being awarded Civilian of the Year for 2017. Congratulations.
That was steak during Irma.
Detective of the Year, Detective James Jim Jones. Jim, based upon a nomination submitted by Sergeant Aaron Martin, you've been selected as Detective of the Year for 2017. You've been a police officer for 19 years and are assigned to the Criminal Investigation Division's Forensic ICAC unit, ICAC. You served in the CID for the past 10 years and currently investigate technology crimes and conduct forensic examinations of electronic devices for our agency and other agencies. You're a court expert in cellular sites and cellular site mapping, cellular telephone forensics, computer forensics, and child exploitation. You demonstrate a passion for criminal investigations and helping others. Your numerous successful criminal prosecutions and the assistance you provide to your fellow law enforcement colleagues evidence this attribute. You have not only assisted our agency with forensic examinations and guidance, but also the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, the Department of Homeland Security, the Fort Pierce Police Department, St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office, just to name a few. During this year, you have worked on many notable child exploitation pornography cases resulting in arrests. You have also worked on federal narcotics investigation where $1,500,000 in marijuana was smuggled into Fort Pierce, and you were asked to conduct a forensic examination of the suspect's cell phone. You successfully accomplished this objective and recovered crucial evidence in this case. There are so many more cases and investigations that you've worked on that can be mentioned, which is a testament to your incredible investigative talents and knowledge. Congratulations, Jim, on a job well done. You ready? Last but not least, co-officers of the year, Officer Fred Naggs and Officer Justin Kearns. Based on a nomination submitted by Sergeant Rick Schichtel, you've been selected as co-officers of the year for 2017. Officers Naggs and Kearns are both parks officers. In addition to their parks officer duty, each has a collateral duty that's important and time-consuming. Officer Naggs, you're assigned to emergency management in addition to your parks duties. You provide important information to department personnel regarding weather conditions. Come on, Weather Fred. Everybody knows Weather Fred. And upcoming situations that require special attention and/or cautions. This assignment was particularly important during the preparation and response to Hurricane Irma, which affected our area for over a week. The preparation for the storm, the operations during the storm, where he was locked in the 911 center, and the day-to-day operations restoring order and services following the storm were much more organized than in past storms. This was attributed to a better prepared agency, partly due to your efforts. In your position as a parks officer, you do an amazing job keeping the park safe and maintaining a high quality of life. Some of the crowds that you and Officer Kearns manage is overwhelming, and if not monitored properly, could result in a major disturbance. Not to leave out Officer Kearns, in addition to your parks responsibilities, you're responsible for the sexual offender program. You monitor 141 sexual offenders throughout the city, 9 of which are sexual predators. You observe their internet activity closely and make arrests for violations, keeping our citizens safe. During the past year, you've made 8 arrests of sexual offenders, ranging from unlawful internet activity, violation of probation, and failing to register their address. Additionally, you're in constant contact with offenders who inquire as to the restrictions of living in certain areas, and you do everything you can to accommodate them to ensure they don't reside in an area not permitted by law. You are also an FTO, and your trainees learn much and benefit from your unique experiences that you expose them to. Besides both their assigned duty and collateral duties, both officers are willing to pitch in and assist in division projects, such as the Shop with a Cop, Torch Run, Tip a Cop, National Night Out, Department Open House, PAL dances, and many other events. They both make themselves available for tours of the agency, reading to children in schools, and any other event that they're asked to attend. They never say no. A new responsibility they've been tasked with is assisting in our truancy program, which they have been very motivated in pursuing. Both of these officers do an exceptional job, and despite the fact that most of their duties aren't front-page news, they're solid team members who are loyal to the agency and to district support. It's for these reasons you're being awarded Co-Officers of the Year. Great job, guys.
Another great quarter. A lot of good work. Before we retire back to the PD for refreshments, that's why I went over and asked Lisa earlier, make sure I wasn't promising something we didn't have. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't thank Andy Lawler and the awards committee for all the hard work that they've done throughout the year. And this isn't easy to pull together. We have several people that have to type up all these memos and go back through them. But making the selections and then getting the awards ordered, Linda Cole, Melissa, Lisa, Michelle Neild, none of this would happen without their help. So thanks for the round of applause there, Darren. Good. Yeah. All right, thank you.